Hi, welcome back to Questionga. My name is Penelope Sanyu and I'm your host for this beautiful show. This is our space to be inspired, to play and to live. I am glad that you chose to dine with us yet again today and learn and grow in the same space with mighty people, mighty humans. Last week we had an opportunity to host the CEO. They call her the CEO of CIFSOS Africa, and Miss Jacqueline Asimwe took us through some of the principles that she has worked with in the foundation of her CEO journey. We are digging deeper today as we continue that conversation, and as we dig deeper, we're going to explore people, we're going to explore relationships, we're going to explore money and all these other things that we continue to struggle with as we journey through this space called CEOing. So come with me as we continue our conversation with Jackie Asimwe. And should you have questions, nankanis and other things that you don't understand, just shoot your questions in the comments and she will ably respond to you. So Jackie, you're very welcome to Questionga. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us yet again.
Thank you for having me again.
And thanks for indulging us last week. I know that I've been chewing on everything that you said, and
Did you swallow?
I am sure. I'm yet to swallow. Some of it I'm yet to swallow because it takes a lot of chewing to get it down. Yeah, and I know that all the people who are watching or listening to us are also thinking, this very wise woman, we want to hear so much more from her. So thank you for coming back. And I will just start us off quickly by asking the people question. One of the resources that we need to manage in our roles as CEO is people. You talked about last week the people you surround yourself with, and that's external. But internally also there are people that we deal with, and sometimes I have found that we look at people but we don't see them. Just share a bit if you have a story or anything that has helped you to see people beyond the job title, beyond the job description, beyond what they're expected to do in the institution, to see their heart, to see their dreams, to call that out as a leader.
Wow. So I think part of what taught me actually to see people was the way my father led. My father is Reverend Ben Mugarura Mutana. And I watched him
also, but the way they say my father.
Okay, our group father.
Our group father.
So I watched him without knowing I was watching him, which is a caution to leaders.
Yes,
people are watching whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So I was watching my father and I saw the way he interacted with everybody. And allow me to use this, whether with peasants or presidents. And not only that, he not only interacted but saw people. And so I think in my leadership, that's what I wanted to emulate. Because again, like I said the last time, sometimes there's the assumption that when you are leading from the top, that you've arrived.
Yes.
Right? Because now it's you people are looking at, right? I don't have to see you. And unfortunately, that's not the way it should be. Like you said, we are supposed to have the ability to see, especially the least. Especially the least. And it's unfortunate, yes, we still work in a very hierarchical system. And so it means, therefore, there are always people at the bottom who are not seen, who are not heard, because anyway, they're not even at the table.
They're not noticed at all.
So what I tried to do, learning from my father, is to say, how can I ensure from the gate man to the garden person to the lady and gentleman who clean our office to the person who manages our front desk, how can I show that I see them? And one of them is to interact beyond the hi. Yes, to really walk.
Oh, the good morning, madam, because
so
they
rather
are the
than
ones who
them
have imposed
walk
it on
to
you.
me,
I
also walk to them and say, Isaac, how are you really? That is one. The other thing, example and story that I can give, there's a time we were hiring for a job at office, and I thought to myself, why is it that we always use HR firms? I understand there's a skilling to this, but very often our front desk people are very relational people. They are the people that receive our guests. They are able to read people very well. And so as I was struggling with that challenge of, we had two very good candidates, so I asked our front desk officer to have lunch with the last two candidates, and I told her, you will interview them for me, because there are questions you will ask that I'll probably never think of, but things that are important to you because you've been here since we started this organization. You know our ethos, our values, our what we aspire to do and be, and you're able, therefore, to tell me. And for her, she's very quick at sorting what's bullshit and what's not, right? So she did that, and she really took her assignment seriously and wrote out the report, and I did go with her decision. And for me, that was my way of, yes, you're not, and
you're not just a front desk person.
She has been told that she's not educated, right? She doesn't have book smarts, according to us. But that, and so even for a leader, part of why we don't see people are these barriers. She's not from my tribe. She's not. So we didn't go to the same
master's
school.
Degree. You didn't go to Gayaza.
Which you didn't, but it's all right. I see you, Penny. But yeah, no, really, it is to say, so what does that tell me as a leader in terms of the blinds I need to lift from my eyes in order to truly see the people that I lead and serve?
No, that's really, really powerful. And I just remembered, horses sometimes wear blinkers so that they can be forced to look at only one direction, and they're not distracted when they're running. And sometimes as leaders we wear so many blinkers because you're only focused on strategy, and the people could die. I don't care. I do care, but I won't look there. Right now it's strategy, and you end up riding people out of the institution rather than drawing them in. So I'm glad that is really, really key. But also just going back to seeing people, and part of building relationships is the ability to stop and listen, but also know when to speak. The ability to know how far is too far, and not pushing certain boundaries. How do you set your boundaries as the CEO? Because I have known people to take and take and take and take as much as you allow them to take. So where do you draw the line? How do you draw the boundaries as CEO?
One of the boundaries that I have set is around rituals. Because rituals help me stay grounded. I am and I don't know whether it comes from being a firstborn, being a Gayaza girl, I don't know, it's okay. But I need to have a time and space for me. That is one of my boundaries. And so I try, even when we were working from home, I try and say, I will stop for lunch, because I need to walk away from my desk. That is a boundary. And that is part of the way I even interact with the team, right? So that is one of the things we've said we know we're all busy, but let's stop. So stopping is a boundary because it's part of my ritual, our ritual. The other boundary that I've set for myself is and it feeds into the rituals, how I slow down as a leader, because leading is fast lane, fast paced, and you can feel like you're running on what's that thing that the hamsters run on, that hamster wheel, right? And so before you fall off, you need to learn to pace yourself and breathe and be. And so my evening rituals are part of my boundary. I have tea at 6 p.m. I am watching the sunset. I am doing my gratitude notes because I must be grateful for something that day. That is my way to say,
I've carved out time for me, and this is important.
To breathe. To remember that life is not just about the running, even though I'm running things, right? And I think finally the other boundary that I've set, reading time, that I do not compromise. And I'm glad that we are surrounded by books, because I must be a learning leader. You know, we always say these cliches, the day you stop learning is the day you die. And I don't know how many of us leaders are actually clear about and have written down our personal development goals
yeah.
and a plan and actions and activities
accountability
and
partners to
accountability.
get you to do these things.
Right?
Yeah.
So if knowledge is one of my boundaries, therefore I need to carve out and make
Ways
time
to
for
grow
my
my
reading.
knowledge
Yeah, so
base.
those are some of the boundaries. Some.
I'm sure there are many, yes. And I'm sure there are many people who could even point out, that chick, she can't do this at this time, she can't do. Yeah, but it's important. It's important to...
Oh, the other one. Oops.
Please go
Phone
on.
time. You talked about how leading is also part of blocking out distraction. And yes, we must. And sometimes, yes, we can scrolling, swiping.
Yeah.
Right? You can easily, go down that rabbit hole.
Day on TikTok.
So I'm trying to do tech detoxes.
Yeah.
So I'm very good at shutting down my computer. I have tried and I'm learning how to shut down my phone to say, look, I do, yeah.
And it's a journey. Like you said, boundaries are a really, really longer journey than learning how to CEO, honestly, because that becomes deeply personal, and it's also interacting with the environment and the people, and it can be quite frustrating sometimes. So I'm here thinking, okay, so I've established this organization. I'm grounded. I am doing well in that area. Oh, I'm grounding, constantly grounding. I am building the people. We are in this beautiful, happy space. As a CEO, have you had to let go of people? Now, one of the difficult conversations to have is to sit before someone and say, unfortunately, we can no longer have you at this institution. And as heartbreaking as it is, people think it's so easy to fire people out there. I mean, you have the power, just say, get up and go. I mean, it seems that easy. At least that's what I saw. Exactly, like, you're fired.
When will I also get
clear your desk, please? And because you're invested in people and because you see people, I can't even imagine what it takes. I know that I agonize around decisions like that. I'm like, let's try, performance plan, let's talk, let's walk. Oh dear, my dear, please dear, let's do. And eventually, because you've got to make that difficult decision, you have to make it. Yeah. Just share a bit about how you've navigated having to let a team member go.
Okay. So the one thing I always do is loop in my lawyer, because it's also a legal decision.
Yes.
And long before my people know, my lawyer will know, because I will need the guidance to ensure
how to go about
that I am not exposing the institution by the way we let someone go. Do I always get it right? No, unfortunately. But having that legal backstop or legal support is very critical. The other thing that I'm not very good at doing, so also sharing my pains in the process, is documenting this journey of, can we try? I know that there's one person we had to let go. I'm of two minds, because I sometimes feel like not every conversation, especially where it's a hard one, must be documented, because then otherwise all our files would be, so you're an adult, I'm an adult, and we're
understanding each other.
So I think in that situation, yes, I hadn't documented the conversations, but between me and that person, we knew we had this conversation about behavior variously. So, for those out there that, again, because it's a legal process we're managing, document as much as possible. And then, of course, how you let down the person or let go the person is also very, very critical. I try not to do it at office. 3 out of 4, I have done it away from office in a space that I hope will. So it's a bit tricky because taking it to a public space,
You don't know how they will react,
yes,
or what the emotion.
Keep away the knives. No. But yeah, it is. Really, you literally. I think it's a process you choreograph in your head.
Yeah.
Because yes, it's not you're fired. What you say and what I try and watch. Let me not break Penny's spirit because that's not what I'm trying to do, right? So how do I say what I need to say
without breaking the soul and the spirit? Yeah.
Because our words as leaders are very powerful.
Yeah.
That person will carry that word with them and say either I'm useless, I'm hopeless, I'm whatever it is, right? So how the process and the words that one uses, the space, I mean, we think about all these also given what the person has done and contributed. And sometimes if the letting go is mutual and there's no hard feelings, then we do a send-off, and celebrate you because you are not only the bad things you did, you also did very many good things that helped propel the organization. So if there is a moment, if you can, and the person is not too heavy about it, also, I mean, respect the person's decision. Some people don't mind and they are celebrated. Some people say, because, there are also feelings on the other side. So how you manage those feelings. It's timing, but it's like you said, it's very difficult. We don't walk to these decisions lightly. Like you said, we agonize over them sometimes for way too long. But I think what I did learn, either it's a book I read or a podcast that I listened to, that oftentimes, in fact, what we fear as leaders is our own discomfort.
Yes.
That was a hard knock because, yes, when I do assess it, I fear being uncomfortable, and so I will not go to the place where I'm having that uncomfortable conversation. So knowing that, every time I want to walk away from that, Jackie, you're centering yourself, you're not centering the organization, because the longer we fail to make the decision, you are already making the decision. People are thinking, okay, this leader allows this behavior, because that's what you're saying. Also, the other thing that I learned, the team too is processing the emotions around it. So also how you communicate that decision to let a person go, because of course the rumor mill will do its rounds. People start making assumptions about why the person was let go if that is not communicated. So that's the other thing I've learned, that I don't only communicate to the person I'm letting go. I find
avenues to communicate.
And of course in a respectful manner, right? I'm not going to list these are all the things they did wrong there. No, it's just but communicate it so that people receive
and not
it.
Having the
whispers, yes.
Yeah. So speaking of communicating, and I want us to wrap this up nicely, but before we do, I'll ask one more question and then we will wrap it up. So communicating, sometimes putting this information out there as the CEO puts you in a place of, the English has flown, it has disappeared from my head, but you're trying to protect the team, you're trying to protect the institution, and you're dealing with imposter syndrome, and you're dealing with the bigger community within which you operate. So how much do you communicate and how much do you not communicate? Of course, that comes with emotional intelligence and certain levels of wisdom, but I want to talk a little deeper about dealing with grief in the institution. And by grief, I mean, okay, so we've lost a member of staff and they are not dead, but they've moved on, or they are dead, or we've not received, we are proud to inform you that you are one of our grantees this year. We regret to inform you is all you open your emails to. And sometimes this unprocessed grief, you carry both as a leader, but you also carry as a team. And because nobody is going to talk about it, most institutions don't talk about it. We never sit down the same way we sat to brainstorm for the proposal to say, we did not get this proposal, but we still got it. Yeah. We're good. We're going to try again. We're going to do this well. So have you experienced spaces where there's a communal dealing with grief, And do we allow our institutions as CEOs to manage grief? Do we have grief policies that work beyond the 3 days compassionate leave if I have lost a friend or something like that? That if my friend passed away, even if the institution didn't know them, and I took 3 days off and I am back to office in 3 days, have I really grieved? Where do I put this grief? If I didn't get the proposal I've been writing, where do I put this grief? How do I handle it? And you guys have a self-care and wellness charter at CivSource that I admire. So I want you to tie that into that.
Okay, so I'm laughing for two reasons. So one, we actually did collectively go through what I would call a period of grief, and maybe it wasn't the same for everybody.
Yes.
But we had to move homes.
Yes.
And that is a shifting, and it has pain in the process because we do get attached to the spaces, and it was a beautiful space. So what I decided to do was that we would hold our last gathering at the space together as a team. So I asked everybody to come in person so that we could be there together.
Yeah.
And then I asked people in that meeting to then say the one memory they had of the space. And I think without putting it into words, it was my way to recognize we were each dealing with this and processing it very differently. So let's talk about it, but let's talk about the joy points. Maybe what we didn't do was talk about the pain points, but that was my way to say, it's a collective because we've been using this space together. Let's do this together. And then at the end of that meeting, the other thing that I asked people to do was then to each write a thank you note to the landlord for allowing us to use their space, a space that had enabled us shine and grow and serve the community that we were serving. So that was one. When you talk about proposals, I had actually never thought about it. So maybe it's a thing I'm going to implement.
Yeah.
And like you said, yes. So we celebrate the win, the proposal, and then usually we regret too. We carry, and yet, like you said, sometimes we do write these proposals with a team of people. Say they too must
are doing the budget,
feeling
the programs are doing. So it's a combined effort.
And so maybe we should, in fact, start something around being able to. What do you do with that kind of loss?
Recognizing it and then dealing with it collectively.
Maybe we don't because we assume it's part of the hazard of the business of what we're
but we have been conditioned to believe that, move on quickly, don't dwell on it, don't cry over spilled milk. We have other proposals to do. Let's not die with this one. But people carry this weight home. I do. I know I do. I know you do. I know everybody out there. You've worked so hard. Sometimes you spend sleepless nights going back and forth with the finance manager and saying, "Look, no, the numbers are not numbering. We need to do this. We are not thinking about the staff enough. Increase this budget, lower this," and then you don't get it. And usually, and this is maybe a side note to the people we write grants to say, look, sometimes it's okay to, I know you can't write to everybody to say this is what you didn't get right, but there are some people that require, like you really, just for people to move on, have at least an automated response and say, look, maybe you didn't meet the qualifications or whatever, but I think it's a way of giving people closure and
speaks to wellness, what you're talking about. I know that's one of the things we talk about in our wellness charter is giving each other the space and grace to be vulnerable. And loss is a space of vulnerability.
It is, right? Deeply.
And it's not even about measuring, you're more, your loss is greater than mine. No, it's saying,
we're not comparing.
We all experience the human emotions that hold each other in that space of vulnerability.
Wow. Speaking of holding, we're going to talk briefly about money, holding stewardship for institutional money, and then we will talk about gratitude and close. And so as you talk about money, maybe just a bit about gratitude, because I know that I'm not going to ask a specific question about money, just whatever you feel is important about this journey on because money is one of the resources we manage as you're the chief accounting officer. Definitely, we have to have a conversation around money. But to not get deep into it, we will wait for another episode and talk about that. But just a sneak peek into money and then why you practice gratitude, because you said when we started that I must carve out time for gratitude. I must. Why is that important to you as we close, and why should we do it?
Okay. So money, so yes. So I don't know how other people be. We are sadly not really taught about money.
No.
And there you suddenly are, you're the CEO supposed to manage money.
A lot
but
of money at that.
our money knowledge is very little. So my one advice, learn about money. The other thing is that I'm learning is that I carry my money manners
into the institution.
So spend thrift to me. I know. Jesus, hold me. I know, but it's so true because you'll be like,
it is. Like, let's buy this. Let's do this.
And
Let's run this party.
Finance manager is like,
it's not my money.
What is wrong with this woman? Not in a, I mean, and it's not even spending in terms of where. No.
It's not from a bad place.
Or if you fear money, right? That's you'll carry that fear into the. So it's just to say for leaders.
We can't increase salaries because we don't have money. We can't do this. We have no money. We can't because you're afraid to.
For leaders, you truly carry your money manners into the way you manage your business. Wallahi.
Yeah.
So, going back to what I talked about habits.
Yes.
Decide who do you want to be in terms of your money habits as a leader, and then decide the how, and then work out the habits that lead you to that practice. So, and in fact, it's one of the modules we do in Grow. Grow is our
CEO
1-year mentorship program for CEOs, and one of the modules is know your money to grow your money.
Yeah.
And I think any person who talks about money, who understands money, says, it's a whole field, right? It is energy.
It is.
Money flows, right? That's why it's called currency. Yeah. So we truly, truly, as leaders, need to know. And I'm not even saying know how to add and know those spreadsheets. No, but what level of knowledge do you need to acquire
to be at that level,
to be a good steward of money?
Yes.
And then lastly, I think what no one also told me, because we thought it was an arrival lounge, was it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
It's a tap that never turns off.
Yeah.
Because you'd think, I've written a proposal, we've got an issue, let's rest. Before the ink has dried, you're already thinking about 5 proposals on, right? Because it is what keeps our institutions alive, part of what keeps our institutions alive. So, nobody ever told me that it's a thing that you wake up in the middle of the night and have night sweats because you're thinking, how do I keep the lights on? How do I keep people paid? How do I keep the work going? So anyhow, that's it about money. Gratitude, as we wind down, is something that I learned mostly from a space of coming out of a process of grief. There was a time in my life that my mental health was not good. I was depressed. I didn't know it. I know the language now, but I was deeply, deeply depressed. Did things that were self-harming. And then part of coming out of that was learning the practice of gratitude. Because on the other side of depression is you really have to work yourself out of that mental state. And gratitude is one of those things that keeps me alive, keeps me connected, keeps me looking towards the positive. So, and once I've been practicing it now for 4 years, 5, I'm not sure. But I think it's one of those things that for me has been a grounding and a great salvation. And so I cling on to it. I tell people as much as possible. We do it at office. I know that FarmFort also has a gratitude jar as an organization because it's easy to complain. And then in the complaining, you really lose sight of what you have.
The small good things
of the small good things that happen. So I think it in itself reminds me to keep humble and hopeful. That's why I need it.
Dear CEO, keep humble and hopeful and grateful and managing all these things that you're doing. But Jackie mentioned one thing that I want to just close with. You're running things, but don't allow them to run you. There's we can be so busy managing everything else and running around and trying to be all these superstar CEOs, and we end up losing who we truly are. So find who you want to be, what kind of CEO you want to be, and all these many lessons that Jackie has talked about and we have had a moment to share. I will end it here now so that we can let you breathe. This is too much to chew on, and you need to swallow last week's chewing and then swallow this as well. So we'll let you go. We will be back very soon.